Hey guys, what is up? How's it going? This is Furgie here today from A Squad Gaming, and today I am bringing you guys the first of our Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited class builds. And today we are going to start with the Dragonknight. Now, we are going to be doing these every 10 levels for every class, including Nightblade, Dragonknight, Templar, and Sorcerer. And every 10 levels we're going to show you exactly what's going on, what skills we're using, our stats, etc., what gear we've crafted, things like that. And today we are going to be doing our first class, which is the Dragonknight. I know I'm in light armor, but I'm going to get to that in a minute because this build plays very differently than something you would expect. Now, this build is actually considered a fire mage, I suppose, and you really can't do this with the sorcerer tree. You kind of, besides the destructive staff tree, you really can't do much with fire unless you go towards the Dragonknight side of things. And now that I'm in the Dragonknight side of things, there's a lot more fire skills that I have to my disposal that I can use and use to further tear down people. And I don't really need to worry about the rest of the stuff from Sorcerer. I can be a little more tanky and things like that. This is a really good build. I suggest it for any of you who are starting to play or any of you who want to make another class. This is a lot of fun. So today we're going to look at my stats, what gear I'm wearing, and then finally my skill tree. And all three of these things are pretty much the bread and butter to what's going on with this build. So first of all, let's take a look at my main stats. Now, every time you level up, for those of you who don't know, you get to put a point into magicka, health, or stamina. Now, you'll want to do this differently depending on how you're playing your character. Whichever one of these you need more. Health if you're tanking, stamina if you're doing something like some kind of Nightblade build, or magicka if you're casting a lot. Now, I will be casting a lot throughout this entire build. I really won't be using any stamina at all unless it's for running, and the only health I'll need is if I inevitably get too squishy and I'm killed too easily by anything. I'll probably need to put some points into health or put some health points onto my gear. Those are options if you feel like you are dying too quickly, but for me, I've put everything into magicka so far. This means I have a pretty high maximum magicka right now along with the help of my gear, a pretty good magicka recovery, and then other various things that come along with this build generically. I don't have anything for critical or weapon critical yet, but we'll get to that eventually as this build gets a higher and higher level. So next up, we're going to take a look at my gear. Now, I have crafted all of this gear, and if you've already seen our beginning crafting guide, you'll know how to do this. If not, you can go check that out. I'll link it in the description. And I've made all of this myself. Now, in the original Elder Scrolls Online on PC, drops were not very good. Even from bosses, they were not near as good as gear you could craft. But nowadays, they are a little bit better, and they can actually serve you pretty well. However, it's not as reliable as getting something that you can craft, and you won't necessarily get exactly what you want. When you craft, you can choose what you want it to look like, what kinds of enchants are on it, etc., and pretty much build your gear exactly how you want it to be. So first of all, we have a Maple Inferno Staff of Flame. Now, I've just crafted this at the woodworking station, and then I've enchanted it to do 30 flame damage. The enchant has actually run out, so I need to recharge that, but it does do quite a bit more fire damage once you get that enchantment on, and obviously it goes along with the theme of being a fire mage. And I'll explain kind of how we play this build here in a minute when I get to skill trees and what exactly you should be shooting for. Now, the rest of this gear is all of the homespun set. Now, that's just the first set of light armor you can build. However, I've added enchants for maximum magicka. So this is going to give me a lot more armor as well as a lot more magicka once you add it all together, which is very, very helpful because everything we're doing is involving magicka. So that's a lot of magicka going out, a lot more recovery that we need. So all of these gear here is just light armor with magicka enchants, pretty simple enough. This amulet I'm using here is the Amulet of Avaya. You get it pretty soon into, I think, any side faction you're on. You'll get it from some kind of quest. If not, I am in the Ebonheart Pact as a Breton. I know, I'm kind of a cheater, but so you can grab this and it gives you magicka recovery and maximum magicka, just even more magicka to help you out. Now, my rings are really the only two I've received so far. Early in the game, you don't get much jewelry at all. So I've gotten this from the first quest with the Prophet at the Harborage, and this from some other quests I did, I believe, where you had to steal the bottle of wine. Now, obviously, I don't need stamina, but it's just good if because I have to run a lot, and that'd be the only reason I would ever put points into stamina, is so I could continue running. And this one is obviously very helpful because it's just more magicka recovery and magicka. So that's my set right now. Obviously, it's just pretty much focused on magicka. I don't have very much armor because it's all light. That's okay. I'll explain how we play this class here pretty soon and how you can avoid getting killed every 5 seconds. Now this Fire Mage build really plays in the way that you would expect. Basically, it's like any other kind of caster where you are at a distance using a staff and trying to make sure people don't get too close to you so you can continue doing damage. Because we are very susceptible to melee damage, and when people get close they can really beat us to a pulp. That's why this build is focused on a lot of range damage as well as keeping people in place and keeping them away from us. Now this build is in the baby stages because we're only level 10 and we really don't have access to all of the abilities we need yet. So that's why I'm kind of working with the trees, and I might even have a couple skills that I don't necessarily want yet, just so I can level up to the point to where I can use the skills that I do want. So basically we're going to get into the skills here, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing to play this class the way I do, to keep people away from you. That's the biggest thing, is distance, and then continue to do a lot of damage. This build does a lot of damage, a lot of fire damage, a lot of damage over time, and it's really good in any kind of combat unless you're fighting something that's very resistant to fire. Other than that, really, it could be one of the most powerful builds at the moment, save for maybe a regular storm calming sorcerer, because they're just OP. That being said, let's take a look at the skill tree, and I'll show you guys exactly what our goal is when playing as this Fire Mage Dragonknight. So the 2 or 3 skill trees we will be focusing on with this build are Ardent Flame, Draconic Power, and the Destruction Staff, along with the obvious light armor and then your racials or whatever you're using with that. So the first tree here is called the Ardent Flame, and this is going to be very important in the build. Also, our first move is called the Fiery Grip, which pulls people towards us, which might defeat the purpose of trying to keep them away. However, I need to use this skill right now in order to level up this tree to 20 and then eventually 42, so I can get these 2 moves that are very vital to the build. Now another option is just using Searing Strike, but that's just a melee attack, so it's pretty much the same deal. I don't use this move very much, but I just keep it on the bar when I turn in quests so I can level up the tree and eventually get to where I need to be. So Fire Grip is not permanent, that's why I haven't morphed it or done much with it. I don't even really use it much at this point. Now the ultimate I'm using is the Dragonknight Standard, and this is the ultimate we want for the entirety of the build all the way up to maximum level, because it is very good and it does a lot of flame damage in an AoE. As you can see here, we call down a Flaming Battle Standard that deals 263 flame damage. The damage value will change depending on your level. And it does damage over time to enemies around you and reduces their healing. So this is a very powerful move, and an ally can activate Shackles, so there's kind of synergy moves people can use when you use your ultimates like this. So this is one of the best ultimates in the game, actually. It's the only one I would suggest for Dragon Knights, especially with this build. Dragon Leap isn't bad either, but I would really stick with the Dragonknight Standard. Now passives, just as a rule of thumb, always get all of your passives in every tree. Doesn't matter if you think they don't help you or not. It's just going to help you in some way or another. Whether it's, even if it's something that seems like it might be tanky, it's probably going to help you out. So I would grab all passives no matter what. Now in the Draconic Power tree, we really only want one move. Some of these are okay, but most of them revolve around reducing your damage, and this is really the tanky tree for Dragon Knights. Oh, I've been interrupted. Okay. Anyway, back to Draconic Power. The only move we really want in here is Burning Talons. Now, I can't exactly remember what this is called before you morph it, but it's something involving talons. Obviously, I've maxed this out and morphed it to where it also does burn damage over time to enemies that are inside of it. Again, just more damage over time, and more things having to do with fire, because it's fun. So what these do is they'll basically stick people in place that come up from the ground and keep them from moving. Keep in mind, if you use some of the other spells on this tree or in this build, you will knock them out of the talons or pretty much defeat the purpose of them. So you really have to kind of use this rotation the way I show you in order to really take advantage of these. But they keep people from getting close to you, which is our primary goal, and they keep people in place so you can just beat the crap out of them while they're stuck there. So next we move down to the bread and butter of this build, and that is with the Destruction Staff. Now really, if you have a Flame Destruction Staff, you can use some of these moves with any class. But me trying to make it all fire, that's why I've focused on Dragon Knights. And also it gives us a few more tanky passives and things like that, so that it's a little more helpful. The two moves I have so far are Destructive Touch and Wall of Elements, both morphed. Now these will be final on the final build, and they're both already very helpful to what we're trying to do. Destructive Reach keeps people away from you and does a lot of damage, as well as damage over time after you morph it. And then Wall of Elements, I'll show you, throws down kind of an area of effect in front of you that goes quite a long ways. And when people stand on it, it does damage over time to them, and then I have it morphed so it explodes. This is another very good move, especially if you put people into your Burning Talons first. You continue to do damage to them, and then you throw down Wall of Elements, so they really can't do much about the damage that they're taking and they're stuck there. So these are both very good moves. They synergize well together, and if you're using the Flame Staff with it, it will have different effects than if you're using a Frost or a Shock Staff. But like I said, I love fire, so that's what we're going with. I have not picked up Force Shock yet, because although it has some fire in it, I don't think it's necessary to the end of the build. It is very good damage, but I'm actually waiting to grab Impulse later on because it's a very, very good AoE. All passives here are fantastic. Grab every passive you can as soon as you can. Really, I would even prioritize passives above regular moves sometimes. So these two moves will be stuck with the final build. Now, next up we just have the usual, we have Light Armor. We want every single passive in this tree because we're only using Magicka. We need Reduces Magicka Cost, Magicka Recovery, Spell Resistance, Spell Crit, and Penetration. Just a lot more DPS overall, and a lot more Magicka that we can work with. Like I said, I am a Breton, and Bretons are by far the best race for casting, next to maybe High Elves. If you're even just playing a regular Sorcerer, these are great. Oh, look at this guy. Maybe I didn't pick the best spot to make this video, but it's alright. Let me just show off the build a little more. Okay, so the Breton passives here are very good as well. You can really use any race, it's not a huge deal, but it's just going to help out a little bit with max Magicka Spell Resistance and Magicka Reduction Cost, as well as a Light Armor affinity. That's why my Light Armor is so high right now. And finally, we have some points into the clothing and woodworking trees, and these will just allow you to create better and better gear, upgrade them, find hirelings, and let you find the materials easier than they normally would. So all of these moves are very good, but for now I was just focused on the first one. Whenever you do get your rank up to 5, that actually takes a little bit, and then you can eventually make gear that gets better and better along with your level. So this is the build, and this is what I'm working with so far. Like I said, a lot of these moves are in the alpha stages, and I won't be using them in the final product. However, they are good right now, and will allow me to level up the trees I need in order to make this build as perfect as possible. So eventually I'll be giving you guys a level 20, 30, 40, 50, and max level update for this build, showing you exactly what I'm doing, if I've made any changes or made any realizations with this new version of the game, and I'll bring those updates to you guys as soon as possible. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like I said, I would suggest this build for anyone getting started or anyone who already has a character that is interested in making another one, or maybe a build that's not so streamlined that everyone's doing, because this is very different. You don't see many people trying it, but it does work very well. So I highly suggest this. I suggest that you all try it out along with this game, period. For those of you who are just watching this video for fun, Elder Scrolls Online is a very fun game. It's updated and fixed. It's streamlined in a few ways on the console now, so it's actually a lot more fun than it was on PC. There's way less bugs. The servers are a little slow right now, but that's just because so many people like to play this, and I really suggest you all try it out. There's no subscription, like I said, now, which was a good move on them, and we can all have a lot of fun with a one-time purchase fee. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more Elder Scrolls Online videos in the future. There will be a lot of them, and we will see you all next time. Thanks.